Bonjour. So I'm excited to teach you this particular grammar point. Le conditionnel is what it's called, the conditional mood. And the reason I'm so excited for it is because when you go to France, whether it be on a vacation, a honeymoon, or something, and you're ordering in a restaurant, you don't want to say things like je veux, right? Je veux des steak frites, or je veux un steak frites. I want steak with fries. It just comes across as very, very direct. And for French people, it's impolite to be so direct. They like to be indirect as a way of being polite. And if you play that game with them, if you are polite, if you are indirect with them in asking for things, they will be so, so happy to help you. And so that's kind of why there is the stereotype that French people are rude on our side, and that American people are rude for French people, is because we don't necessarily know how to play their game. We respect being super straightforward and direct and a little bit pushy. French people do not like pushy. They want to see that you can very indirectly ask for something. So even in a restaurant, not saying je veux un steak frites, but there's another phrase you'll use that's je voudrais. Now, some people in the classes I've taught this in already have commented that, oh my goodness, that verb vouloir that we learned, oh, it's not letting me draw. There we go. The verb vouloir, and this is not written in your notes, but yeah, you conjugate this je veux, tu veux, il veut, etc. Nous voulons, il voulait, but there's a special root that you can use that's related to this verb vouloir that comes from it somehow, um, that you can use. So if you use voudre, d'accord, as your root, and you add to it AIS, you've got je voudrais, I would like. You're using the conditional. You've known it since, I guess, 7th or 8th grade, and you didn't even know that you knew it. But you're using the conditional there to be more polite. So you know the AIS ending already. D'accord? AIT probably doesn't surprise you because we're used to supersonic train. Voila. On this side, on the right side, you've got nous voudrions, vous voudriez, and il voudrait, with IONS added on, IEZ, and AIENT. So, in order to remember this, there is a song that we have. We sing AIS, AIS, ILLAIT, IONS, IEZ, AIENT. I'll sing it again, and you can pause and sing with me. Do it several times. Just commit it to memory so that your quiz is easy for you. But it's AIS, AIS, ILLAIT, IONS, IEZ, AIENT. D'accord? It is the Mickey Mouse song from like the early Mickey Mouse Club. D'accord? Bon. All right, let's look at some other verbs. And I'd like you to try pronunciation at home actually as well. So I'm going to go through these verbs one more time. Repeat after me. Je voudrais, tu voudrais, il voudrait, nous voudrions, vous voudriez, and finally, il voudrait. D'accord? Now, we're going to look next at this root, pour, and you can probably guess, oh, actually, I didn't even realize. I do have it on the sheet. So pour comes from the verb pouvoir. And again, I'm not going to tell you where these roots come from because essentially you need to memorize them. There's not just like you would past participles, it's not like you're dropping an ending to get the root. The root is just what it is and it has to be memorized. So here you're going to memorize POURR for would be able to and could. Rather than saying, can you get me some utensils, to say, could you? Would you be able to if I were to ask you nicely? Like it's a way of being indirect. That's why they call it the conditional, because it's not necessarily real. You give it a condition. Would you be able to get me this? And the condition might be if I ask you politely or something like that. But that's kind of the theory behind why it's called the conditional, because there's a condition, sometimes stated, sometimes not. All right, repeat after me. Je pourrais, I could. Tu pourrais, you could. Il pourrait, he could. Nous pourrions, we could. And I'm emphasizing that R a little much for you. Vous pourriez, you could, and il pourrait. Bon, the next verb that I want to look at is from devoir. You've got the root DEVR, DEVR, d'accord? So add your endings and repeat after me. Je devrais, I should, d'accord? So whereas je dois was I must, now we've got I should, d'accord? So it's less direct, it's non-committal, not I've got to or I must, but I should, d'accord? I ought to. Bon, all right. So again, repeating after me, je devrais, tu devrais, il devrait, nous devrions, vous devriez, and il devrait. Bon, there is one more modal verb. It's the one that sometimes gets forgotten, but is used very, very commonly in France to say like need to, would be necessary to, ought to, etc. So falloir is that verb, and its root is faudre. There's only one conjugation of it because it's necessary to in the impersonal. So repeat after me: il faudrait. D'accord? Now, you've got these four verbs on the right. However, you could, I mean, once you have that AIS, AIS, ELLAIT, IONS, IEZ, AIENT, once you have that song memorized, you can do this with a bunch of verbs. D'accord? You do have to, for each verb, though, know the root to use. For have, avoir, the root is or. D'accord? So you can say, and this should be a J apostrophe, j'aurais, tu aurais, so I would have, you would have, il aurait, nous aurions, vous auriez, and ils auraient. D'accord? So you would use this mostly in a question. Flip-flop this. Auriez-vous, would you have? Rather than saying, do you have a menu? Auriez-vous une carte? Would you have a menu? It's less direct, thus it's more polite, and French people will love you for it. They will be like, you speak so good French. And you'll love to hear that. Bon. Here are some other roots that you can learn. So you've got être is ser, so je serai. I'll just do the je conjugations for each. Faire is faire, so je ferai, I would do. Aller is ir, and those of you who speak Spanish will recognize this. But to say I would go, it's j'irai. Savoir is saur, so je saurais. And this is one that is used commonly in French as well for questions to be polite. Sauriez-vous? Would you know? It's like asking, would you happen to know? And then finally, aimer, which the root is pronounced aimer. Like also, j'aimerais, to say I would love. And actually, this is a regular ER verb. So for a lot of regular ER verbs, you can probably figure them out on your own. If you want to say, oh, I would eat, you could say je mangerais. D'accord? So ER verbs are actually super easy in this tense, this mood tense. Well, there's some phrases on the bottom that you can fill in. These are just some common phrases you might want to use in your speaking. So you've got, for example, it would be, or that would be is another good translation for it. So if you want to say that would be excellent, ce serait excellent. D'accord? If you want to say it would be excellent to have dessert, ce serait excellent d'avoir un dessert, right? Oui. Another common question in French is auriez-vous la gentillesse de? Would you have the kindness to? And you can follow that by an infinitive verb. Auriez-vous la gentillesse de m'accompagner? Would you have the kindness to accompany me? Another common question is y aurait-il la possibilité de? Would there be the possibility to? Again, you're being super indirect. And then finally, sauriez-vous si? If you didn't know that word, if, that's the big takeaway from that last one. All right, let's look at the practice and how to do it. So the pratique, it says find the right form of the verb between parentheses to make the conditional. So number one, I see pouvoir. And here's the thing about being polite, you're often asking questions. So you're not going to necessarily see the subject before the line. So you see the subject here, for example, after the line, rather than who, you know, being first, it comes after. Anyways, so the root for pouvoir is pour. That's what you've got to remember. And then hopefully you have memorized the AIS, AIS, ELLAIT, IONS, IEZ, AIENT, and you can very easily do that. So if you sing that in your head as you go along, voilà. Pourriez-vous m'apporter la carte? Could you bring me the menu? Or would you be able to bring me the menu? It's more polite than pouvez-vous. D'accord? All right. Um, do I want to do another one or no? I think you're probably good to go from here, to be quite honest. I think you've got it. Just as always, make sure you're looking at the English and thinking about the meaning of these as you go along. It's helpful for building your French repertoire. Okay, bon, that is it for the lesson. Donc, merci beaucoup.